Hello and welcome. Another edition of Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. It is, of course, this week the calm before the storm. We do have the bye this week, and then we will get stuck into a massive final series, but still plenty to talk about as always. As I welcome Dale Thomas, Damien Barrett, Wayne Carey. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Afternoon, boys.
Good afternoon to all.
G'day.
It is awards night tonight, of course, so we will get stuck into the awards because tonight, Daisy, we're ticking off everything all in one. We've got the All-Australian Awards, the Coaches Association, the MVP, the Rising Star. Do you like the format to just do it all in one so the players can all get together, have the one night, and they don't have to worry about going to 2, 3, 4 different events?
I do. Get it in, get it done, get out of the way. The one gripe I do have, obviously I was an All-Australian, only the one time. However, I'd love one of those blazers.
Did you not get one?
No, I got the trophy and whatnot. I think it was sponsored by 4 and 20 back then. So that sits there, the 4 and 20 All-Australian team, but no blazer. So I'm not sure. Maybe I can take it up with the AFL and get one retrospectively.
Would you wear it out? Would you wear it out to a nightclub?
Probably.
Yeah, just for the...
Just every now and again. Like a grand final week, I carry my medal around everywhere and just, gets me in places. So this time of year, it's nice.
You carried in the blazer.
Yeah.
What about you, Duck? What do you think of the awards night tonight?
I actually like the all-in-one.
Yeah.
I mean, I got sick of going to all the different awards. But then again, on a night like tonight, you could get your steps up because I'd be getting up and down, up and down. No, I'm
What about?
very,
Did you wouldn't have obviously got a jacket?
very humble.
No, you're not.
If we got jackets, my wardrobe would be full. Let's be honest. But
You only get the one jacket. They just keep adding layers to it on the breast.
I don't know.
patch,
I don't know where mine is. Then it'd be somewhere in storage.
Would they have enough room for?
Well, they've got to put the VC, and, on that, so I'm not sure they would have had enough room on one.
What about you? This is right in your hitting zone. We believe they've named a squad of 44 with the All-Australian squad tonight, believing they're going to name a second All-Australian team, the next best 22. Isn't that great for the competition?
Don't be facetious,
What
Joey.
do you mean? It's great.
That is an absolute joke.
That's a competitor's award,
Who
Duck.
wants to make the second All-Australian team?
It's still good
In actual
recognition.
fact, who even wants to make the squad? I keep saying this. Why do they even bring out a squad? Because guess what? Because they get criticised twice.
But not everybody can make 7 All-Australians. Some people, it's an honour for them to make. That might be as close as they get.
Have you ever heard me sit here, and I know others sort of put it on their CV, coming runner-up in the MVP? Do I ever sit here and say I came 6-time runner-up in the MVP? No, what'd you say? 2-time winner. I don't talk about the 6 runner-ups, do I?
No, you don't.
But you should.
So what?
You do actually. Actually, you do mention it now.
You mention it every single week.
I thought I'd throw it in now, but why did we do not?
Surely they're not going to do a second 22.
We don't need the squad.
I'd be slightly embarrassed.
It was strange when
100% I would.
It's on your CV that you were in the second.
You
You were
accept
close to
making
being
the
an
squad.
All-Australian.
You accept making the squad, and then if you get wheeled out for, wow, you're in the second 22.
They do it in the NBA, and it's widely accepted.
The NBA's
rhubarb
cool, though.
It's rhubarb
As
anyway.
a rule,
because
the AFL's a dorks.
I don't think they've got enough players in certain positions to put a second team there anyway. Just having a quick look over the squad, and I don't think they could make up an exact second team.
Are you confident they're rolling out a second?
No, I'm not at all.
Oh.
No, but why have they gone from 40 to 44?
Do you get like a hoodie instead of a blazer? Or
do they name an All-Australian second 22 captain?
You get a onesie.
Or is that who would be the captain of the second 22?
So hang on. So if you're the captain of the second 22, then that would mean
Deputy Vice.
you're not even you're 23rd in line anyway to be a captain.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
not a skipper,
Okay.
is it? Let's be
No,
honest.
that's good. You're going though, Damo. Should be.
I am going to. You usually go to these events too. You'll be there.
Well, I am.
Yep.
I'm working. Yeah, I'll do some stuff for 360. I'll dissect the All-Australian team once it gets announced. So.
Yes.
That's what
people love that
Well,
stuff.
you give the due recognition though for the 22 because I often find the coverage of it is as negative as it can be for the moment that is a great moment.
You're
for a lot
right.
of people.
We will be balanced, Damo.
Yep.
You're right. I think we should steer it towards those that make the team, not those that
no.
miss out. Those that miss out always make the headlines.
There's space for that,
Yeah.
but not on the night. I
Yeah.
reckon that's just my take on
I'll
that, Joe.
take that
Okay,
on board.
my take is similar to yours, but a little bit different. And that is, obviously you celebrate the team, and those who you think I don't think you pot those ones that are in the team for those that are out. Definitely talk about the unlucky ones, but not at the detriment of the ones that made it. Because let's be honest, it's a line ball with a lot of them.
Yep.
The ones that make it tonight deserve to make it.
Yep.
Will there be unlucky players? Absolutely. So I just don't think degrade the ones that have made it. That's the fine line that you tread.
Very good. Hey, we're going to take a break because we've got plenty of footy news, Damo. I know it's a bye round, but gee, there's a bit going on at Essendon.
Heaps.
That you broke this morning. We want to get stuck into that.
Is that another breaking story? Damo, 2 in a week.
He's been on fire. Look at him. Damo's got a bit of strut about him. He's on fire this week. So we'll get into that. There's plenty more. We'll look at the Kangaroos, some trade talk, still plenty more to come, and the Daisy Duck Dive. That's all up next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Welcome back to Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. And Damien Barrett, what a week it's been for you. This is why you are the number one newsbreaker in the business. It's more quality over quantity these days. But you broke the Alistair Clarkson story, and now you're breaking the story about the CEO of the Bombers, Xavier Campbell, stepping down. Was it a resignation? Or was it a resignation like when players retire when they've sort of told to move on?
That might have been the backdrop, and let's thrash it out. They had that board meeting on Sunday, which was after the last game of the year for Ben Rutten. They sacked Ben Rutten as a board on that meeting. What I have been able to trace together now is Xavier Campbell, like a lot of Essendon players, went out to Ben Rutten's house. I think it's in the Macedon Ranges, to commiserate and say thank you. Drove back, and then I believe he went round to David Barham's house that night to say, I'm out. So this morning we got wind of it. We went with the story, and they confirmed that this morning he has addressed staff to say he's out. So we've now got a new president, a new coach, and a new CEO required. Simon Madden has followed him off the board as well. He was also supportive of Ben Rutten. I expect Sean Wellman to consider his place as well. I cannot see how Paul Brasher, who was rolled by David Barham as president and decided to stay on the board, in my eyes, he cannot stay on, and I think that'll be announced pretty soon as well. And then you've got other roles in the footy club, inclusive of the list and recruiting manager, Adrian Dodoro, who's been there for 20 years and has regularly been in the spotlight for negative reasons, and also Josh Marnie as footy operations boss. So a lot of changes happening.
Right now, so it seems like carnage. There's a lot of changes, a lot of change happening. Long term for Essendon fans, and I guess in the short term as well, is this a good thing? Is this a positive to try and clean it all out in one period of time?
That would be the positive. What I am yet to get my head around, Daisy, and sometimes we find out things after the event. So the clarity comes only after the event. It comes in hindsight. A lot of it's on the run, is the way I see it. You've got David Barham, who's been on the board for 7 years, and ultimately, as a board member, signed off on all of those things. He's now blowing up. So he's rolled Paul Brasher. He needed Kevin Sheedy to do that. Kevin Sheedy's still off on his own little tangents and wants James Hird back into the club. Xavier Campbell has done the right thing. I mean, he backed Rutten in and he drove that. And I think it is the right thing for him to stand aside as well. And I'm glad for him that he's been able to do it himself and not maybe have the decision made around him, because he is, while he's got his detractors, he has done a good job in taking the club out of the drug saga and also through the COVID period like they all have. But the numbers, apart from football, are through the roof when it all comes to the business metrics.
So is the path clearer and going in a certain direction, or is it that on-the-run thing that you're concerned about?
It's the latter. That's what I am concerned about now.
Dyson Apple's all. You've got to throw the captain in there as well amongst all of that, because he's uncertain about what's going on with his future as well. So in every leadership position of that footy club is going to change.
Yep.
It's quite remarkable. This is North Melbourne 2 years ago.
There are parallels,
except for the I guess the clean out of about 20 players as well in one go.
And then how do they do the external review combined with the selection process for a coach? Because generally you want the external review first, don't you? And then figure out what sort of coach you need. Now you need a CEO. Yeah. How are they going to try and combine the two when they're going to run almost simultaneously?
And Joey, even the phrasing of that too, because that was the platform upon which David Barham said publicly he wanted to come in on. And yet the first thing he did was basically, without making it official, sack the coach and go for one coach in particular, Alistair Clarkson. So that already flew in the face of that ideology. We then see on Sunday, in the hour after they actually sacked Ben Rutten, he then says, we want an experienced coach. Now, there's definitions around that. Is it an experienced coach, someone like an Adam Kingsley, who's been in the system?
No, that's not how
I don't think it is either.
People are now trying to help him, David Barham, and backtrack and say, that could be a 15-year assistant. No, he said it, meaning we need someone who's coached AFL before.
So therefore, you've got a pool of about 7 or 8 people who are all well-credentialed, but some will not be interested, and the club won't be interested in some of them. Already, before, as you say, where's that leave the external review? I mean, and until I reckon there's clarity around these positions, the board's a mess. I've never seen a board like this, and I've seen some messes. You've also got no CEO now. There's doubt over the list manager and doubt over the footy operations boss. and you want to bring a coach in to this environment?
Yeah.
Even from the players. So you usually end of year, you go into your exit meetings. Who's running those? So if your list manager's you don't have a coach to run it, your assistants may not be there next year, and your list manager, you're not sure what's going to happen with your list. Are they? These are great unknowns.
Well, it's funny you say that because they delisted 3 players the other day.
They did.
Son being one of them. So who made that decision given that all this was going on?
I would imagine Adrian Doro did. I would imagine.
Right,
And he's still in the title. As we speak today, and we always say it, it's about midday on the Wednesday. But there will be further changes to this story today. Some of those names I mentioned, Wellman, Brasher, and also what's officially happening with other board members.
Do you expect Doro to keep his role there?
I don't now. No,
Oh,
no,
really?
I don't.
You don't
No,
think
I
Adrian Dodoro will keep his role?
No, I don't.
Right.
No, I haven't for some time, and I believe he is too caught up in this as well. So there's another role I believe will also be of change in the coming days.
Wow. What about the other club that's starting to get some stability, North Melbourne? Obviously, the Alistair Clarkson appointment, the CEO, they're still up for debate. We believe that the Benamafio situation, what's the latest?
Yeah,
there?
I'll just jump on the CEO post and I'll get the other guys' views on the coach's post and where the list is at. But again, I don't see Benamafio being there either. And we've known for some time, it's now public, that Peter Jackson has been a person of confidence helping North Melbourne through the past few weeks. And just to raise his name, now that Essendon officially needs a CEO, I'd be staggered if Essendon, missing out on Alistair Clarkson at the expense of North Melbourne, don't then try and convince him to go back to the club that he once ran very, very tightly as CEO in its successful era.
Surely he wouldn't go back to Essendon.
Well, you wouldn't think not, but I've learnt to say never to any possibility. And given he's had some active play very unofficially with North Melbourne and in straightening up its mindset, I couldn't see why they wouldn't at least knock on the door, like North Melbourne has to draw on the clout and experience that he's got.
Yeah.
Just list-wise, I'd rather you guys talk about that side of it from a North perspective. Now, Clarkson's
Duck,
there.
what's your view with Clarko going to North? No, still list manager. I don't think Brady Rawlings is probably involved in that, but no head of list management and those sorts of things. Are you concerned that already there's been a talk about Clarko just wanting to bring in maybe some of his boys already?
I don't mind it. Yep. I think they need it. I think they need someone, and that's why I love the fact that we got Clarko, because I think that he brings that. He brings that credibility. I think it's somewhat, and I said this last week, a little bit of a destination club with him being there. And I think what we've seen in the second part of the year, we've seen, Joey, and you watch more games than me even, but there is some real young talent there, and you've spoken about it a lot, and even up the spine. And there's some young talent not even that's been played. Taron Thomas not even in the team.
Will Phillips we haven't even seen.
So do I expect Alistair Clarkson to get the best out of these kids and others that are sort of waning a little bit? Yes, I do.
Yep. What do you think it means, Daisy, for guys like Todd Goldstein, Jack Zeeble, that maybe might have, if the coach situation was still there, maybe their futures are in doubt? Does this maybe help them stay at North Melbourne? And as Alistair Clarkson said, bring through this younger talent? Or is it still maybe best for the Kangaroos to try and still get some more draft picks in and give these other guys opportunities
It'll be interesting to see where they go, whether or not Clarko keeps them there in that somewhat of a mentoring role. And I could see him having those conversations, explaining, look, you're probably not in our best 22, but I would love you to stay around. And, if the opportunity comes, you can play senior footy, but with a complete honest understanding that you may be playing a lot of twos football. So almost putting the decision back on those guys. I just think of the Jason Horne-Francis situation now and how, with Clarko's credentials and ability to come in and respecting the game, if Horne-Francis goes now back to Adelaide and Clarko can sit down and say, look, mate, if you want to stay, this is all well and good. This is the way it will be happening. We understand that it hasn't gone the way you would have liked in your first year. But if he then leaves, it isn't the debacle and the great loss that we were talking about early on in this year. And Duck, you said about 3 weeks ago, I think it was, if the Kangaroos can get Clarko, they'll have instant relevance, and that hasn't been true.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, and I think for those guys you mentioned, I reckon Goldstein's I think his form warrants it.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that. There might be some others. I love the fact that they've re-signed Cunnington. I think his leadership inside, he'll get himself fully fit over a summer. He'll be enormous for this younger midfield that they've got. I think you do need. You can't get rid of. They've already got rid of so much experience.
Tarrant and Ben Brown.
They've got rid of stacks of
them,
them, so you can't throw them all out. But there's some that might still tip over probably. But Goldstein certainly wouldn't be one of those.
Jed Anderson's one of them they've let go. So maybe it's that next tier, and you keep.
And Sonia Hood's drive-by of cane corns was absolutely first class. Ross as well. I love that. I could not be a bigger fan at the moment.
He's done a pretty good job. Well, not pretty good
Absolutely
job. He's done a great job.
Proper tip of the hat.
Yeah.
Well done to
And
her.
just quickly, Damo, Izak Rankine, that's the big news. We know the trade period will heat up, and we'll talk about that in coming weeks. But the Izak Rankine, he's officially requested a trade back to Adelaide.
Yeah, it makes it compelling if you're an Adelaide Crows supporter when you line him up against McAdam and Rochelle from the small forwards perspective. You've got Taylor Walker, who is amongst Duck's squad of the All-Australian. It won't be in it, I wouldn't have thought, but Phil Thorpe and Fogarty, the last 10, 11 weeks for Fogarty. So it looks good.
You know what I find astounding? This was a footy club, a little bit like you look at Geelong now and you look at their highest paid players. I mean, Danger and Selwood and all these guys, they all fit into there's no one extremely way above anyone else.
Yep.
The Adelaide Crows was always like that for so long. They had some superstars, the McLeods, the Rashudos, the Goodwins, the Edwards, Ben Hart. They had some absolute guns at this footy club.
Yep.
But there was a pecking order in how you were paid. And that got thrown out the window with Kurt Tippett and Goody and a few others at that time weren't happy because they offered in this mother amount. This footy club now to offer someone like Rankine $800,000 a year to come in, it goes against everything that they've set up. And I know they've done it a couple of times before, but this is completely throwing everything that they've done for a very long time at this footy club. And I know it's a different footy club.
Times have changed. Free agency wasn't around.
But 800, but yes, it was. But 800 grand, not way back. But 800 grand a year for a small forward that's not proven, that's still not proven yet.
The Geelong, the way they go about it is absolutely brilliant, I think. From the captain is the highest paid player, and then you all fall in under rank
and
under that.
That's what Adelaide Crows
But that was broken too, by the
Jeremy
way.
Cameron's now on $1 million.
No, but then they go to the board and make an informed decision rather than upsetting the apple cart, so to speak.
And he accepted
Joey,
that.
And if he becomes a Jeremy Cameron for the Adelaide Crows, well, fair play to them, but there's a great
How much is Rankine then overpaid? If you think if it's 800, let's say it's about that. How much do you think he's then being overpaid?
That's medium
how much?
AFL
150.
Okay.
So,
can I tell you how many players at clubs that aren't even in the best 22 are getting $150,000 more than they should?
Yeah.
They're getting $400,000. They should be on $200,000 because they're borderline best 22 and they would never win a game for their team. So even if Rankine is getting paid $150,000 over what he's worth, that is still fine because he's going to win games off his own boot. He could be a superstar. There are heaps of players in the comp getting $150,000 more. I hate this conversation, the top-end talent. We bag that they're getting overs. There are so many players in the comp getting overs.
Let me be clear on what I say here. And I've been saying this for a lot of years, Joey.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge Rankine getting the 800. Right. I'm not talking about him. I'm rapt that he's getting 800. In actual fact, I want everyone to get 800. Right. Give everyone $2 million each. Yep. I love the fact I'm talking about the club.
Okay.
The club
so what's better, not paying him 800, not getting him?
I'm just saying.
I'm asking you.
I'm saying that do they get into trouble? Bit like others that have got into trouble in the last few years of grabbing players from other clubs and paying them big amounts and putting them on long contracts and then all of a sudden saying, well, you know what?
Here's the question. Is it so should they offer him $650 and not get him or offer him $800 and get him? What would you do? You're saying you'd rather not have him at Adelaide Crows.
And before you answer that, they're not paying anyone else a lot of money.
Yeah, okay. I think he's a very talented player. I just, in terms of, and that's the other thing you don't know. And that's why we sit here and make comment on it. We don't know exactly what they're paying everyone else.
So they're not paying anyone
So
a
you
lot.
know what?
So
just disregard everything I said.
We got him to come around. You'd rather Izak Rankine on your team, wouldn't you, Daisy?
I think you would.
And if it costs you a bit more to get him,
and here's the other debate. If he turns in and what we've seen so far comparative to players, he's probably like a Shea Bolton with that sort of upside to hopefully go through the midfield. So in 3 years' time, if he becomes one of the better players in the
cheap
comp, at 850, he's an absolute steal.
I'll tell you who he reminds me of. Jason Ackerman spent his first 4 years as a little forward pocket, redhead forward pocket.
Do you think he's in that category, do you?
Yep.
Yeah, he's got the skill set
and
for sure.
And he can run. I think that eventually...
Not as strong.
Not as strong?
Acker was...
Even when he was 19, 20 years old, Acker?
He was.
Not what he was doing.
Yeah, he was.
20.
Yeah,
thick through the butt.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, good one.
Anyway,
good chat.
thanks for wearing me down.
Let's take a break. We want to get stuck into the Daisy Duck Dive. Quick five. We'll have a look at the All-Australian team after this on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Rightio, let's do a bit of an awards sort of special today because I know, Duck, you love all this stuff. So we'll start off seeing who should be the captain of the All-Australian team and invited to your little dinner around your table, All-Australian captain's dinner.
All-Australian captain.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it Maxi Gawn again?
To be honest, it should go to Max Gawn again. If he's in it, which I think he will be.
They sometimes move it around a bit.
He will be
They sometimes give it to.
Should Tom Hawkins deserve
he's
a
already
crack?
he's already had.
I know that,
one.
but
Yeah.
if you're the best candidate, you get it again.
No, well, you don't get it again because Alex
Joel
Rance got it
Selwood's
1
been,
year.
Joel Selwood's been 3.
Yeah,
I
no, but I'm
was
saying
4.
Alex Rance wasn't even captain of his own club, and he was captain.
No, I know.
So I'm just saying they move it around. So who,
No, they
outside
don't, no,
John,
I don't think they necessarily do move it around. I still think if you're the best captain, and if they think Max Gawn is the best captain in the comp, and I'd argue Joel Selwood and Max Gawn are the 2 best captains probably in the comp, I think, right now, just off the top of my head. So if Joel Selwood's not going to be in, he's not in the squad, so he's not in the team, so it goes to Max Gawn again, unfortunately.
Was
Buddy Franklin was captain a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. So what do you think? Should Tom Hawkins maybe, this will be his 5th in a row? will
Fifth
it?
year.
Or
6. Sorry, Hawkins. Sorry, he's got 4 in the past.
4
Sorry,
in the
yeah,
past.
yeah,
His
yeah.
5th. Does he deserve maybe an All-Australian captain?
2012, 19, 2021. So 4 in a row,
Yeah.
5 total. I
Yeah.
think so. Absolutely. He's a leader of his football club, albeit Joel Selwood being the captain. But I think when you look at the way that Buddy Franklin was recognised for all his All-Australians, I think Tom Hawkins can certainly be in the conversation.
Would you be comfortable with Tom Hawkins sitting on your table?
Yes, I would.
Good one. What about who's the stiffest not to be in the squad? So I gave you guys a bit of a heads up, bit of a chance to have a look and say, okay, who didn't even make the squad at 40 that caught your eye? Or
Nick
caught your
Dacos,
attention?
obviously the easy one. I think that for a first-year player to have the impact, and his game evolved throughout the season.
Does the first year part matter?
It should.
Should it?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's harder to do in your first year. But regardless of that, I still think he should be in the best 44 players consistently over the year.
It's only happened once before, Joey, hasn't it? Ben Hart in 1992, the second year of the Crows, his first year in the AFL as a 17.
And he was an All-Australian in that
And
year.
in his first and second year as an 18-year-old.
And he played half back pocket, same position. So I think he's stiff. Yeah, I think Nick Dacos.
I wouldn't have had him in the side for what it's worth, but in terms of 44 on the squad, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about
and
you,
also
Joey?
Doherty for me. Doherty's the big one for me
good one.
that didn't make the squad. I just think he's had an unbelievable year, and I'm not pulling on heartstrings. We know what he's gone through. He's the story of the year, along with Paddy McCartan. They're the 2, and obviously Cunnington coming back as well. But those 2 playing the whole year and having great years off the back of what they'd gone through are the big stories. And he's had a great year. And then moved into the middle too for the last few rounds. I think he's very stiff.
Do you have one, Joey?
I thought
Stiffness?
Zach Merritt was very. Zach Merritt had an awesome
okay.
year. I think he's been a victim of what's happened at Essendon and the year they've had, and he got lumped into the same sort of brush as Darcy Parish for a week or 2, where he might have had too many handballs in the back half. But his year's been awesome, Zach Merritt. He deserves to be in the squad. I know it's tough to get in, but he's probably the one for me that was the stiffest to miss out.
Just the one thing that those guys can hang their hat on. They didn't make a squad that no one cares about, so who cares?
What about, here's just one I just thought of then. So tonight they've got the AFL Coaches Association Award and the AFL MVP. I'll ask you first, Daisy. Which one would you rather win? An award voted by the coaches or an award voted by your peers?
I'd say the peers.
Even though most of them admit they don't watch a heap of footy.
How many minutes would you put into your votes on that?
I'd put in
It's a good question.
Yeah,
Damo.
well,
Because I'm intrigued at this.
well,
And I know a
I
lot
know
of players
Mike's-
who don't give it any
Well,
more than a
and
I
I
minute.
know,
It
Damo,
depends
there
what
were
it was.
players when I was there that would look over and ask someone else and say, who'd you put as the best player in the... Oh, yeah, Gary Ablett Jr.? Yeah, he's pretty good. I'll put Gary Ablett Jr.
Sounds good.
But do you all agree that more often than not the players get it right?
Well, yes.
So there you go. So in saying that, the players won. Arguably the coaches get it right too, but they sometimes vote on different things as well.
They do.
So the players to be the best player recognised by your peers, I'd say that.
I'm tipping most players are going to vote for Clayton Oliver, Lockie Neal or Paddy Cripps probably.
You reckon that's the trifecta?
Yeah, I
The
think
box
Jeremy.
trifecta?
I think that's
I
where
think
to
Jeremy Cameron will poll very high in the players. The MVP.
The MVP.
Very,
That's a good
very,
one.
very high. So we might see a key position player actually pull that off. And wouldn't it be great if we did?
I think-
He would be a deserving winner of it.
More key position players win that than the Brownlow, don't they?
And
Because
if
I mean,
you-
there's been a few that won it.
Correct.
Rui won a couple, and Luke
Correct.
Darcy, and I think you won one, didn't you?
If you look at
I won 2.
Blixarves and
Corey
how he'll
McKernan
vote in
won
that
one.
as well,
Yep.
opposed to the Coaches Association.
Yeah.
I think he'll get a lot more respect for what he's done across multiple positions from the players than he has so far in the coaches' votes.
I'll get
Tom
your-
Lynch maybe too.
Yes.
In that category. Yeah.
Your take on this one, Damo, out of the teams that missed the 8 this year, so Carlton, St Kilda, Port Adelaide and Gold Coast, who's most likely to jump? Who's most likely
Don't take
to
the low-lying
Because
fruit.
every year because every year there is a team that jumps from outside the 8 into
Say
the
them
top
again.
4. Every team, there's one team a
say
year.
the 3 again, sorry.
Carlton, St Kilda, Port Adelaide and Gold Coast are probably the 4.
The low-hanging fruit answer
It could be
is...
Essendon, it could be the Giants as well. They absolutely with new coaches could certainly spike. But every year, one team jumps from outside the 8 into the top 4, like Collingwood this year.
Yeah.
Who's it most likely to be?
The low-hanging fruit is Carlton on that answer,
it's an easy one,
but Port Adelaide's the one I would be thinking in Cairns last year by way of the contract. They've got now 3/4 of a season of midfield regularity for Rosie. Butter's got half a season of regular time in there. I reckon they're still right to go.
Yeah, I trust those two, Carlton and Port Adelaide, to jump straight in.
I think the excitement around this is that the season's just finished and there's 3 sides already that if they don't make finals next year, you could almost say it's a failure. That being Carlton, Port and the Gold Coast Suns. Gold Coast have to be in that conversation. If they don't trend to a finals, then to your point about disliking Stewie Jew, Damo, becomes very relevant.
And no expectation on St Kilda then, you just said, to make finals next year?
I think
that's interesting.
I'm not sure they're good enough. I'm not sure they're good enough.
I think,
and they're reviewing themselves again.
It's a very good point. That's a question to know where they're at. And the last one, although we might save it for the Richmond, I want to chat Richmond after this. So what we'll do, we'll take a break. We'll have a look. We won't go and dissect the games just yet, because Duck doesn't even like doing his tips on a Wednesday before a game, let alone a week out from the tip.
You don't want him self-combusting.
We might just have a look at some of the big talking points.
3 times if he has to do it.
What I have done in previous years, if I've had poor home and away,
but
I've absolutely dominated the finals tipping.
When the best teams win every weekend, you're good. Yeah,
you are starting to look good. You are. And you are starting to look good.
You've only got 9 summers left, Joey.
You've got around. The weather's starting to warm up.
Drop 4 off.
Already 4 kilos down.
My shakes.
You're looking good. Hey, we'll take a break and we'll have a look at the big finals and just a little preview up next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, and before we take a look at an early look at the finals kicking off next week, just want to touch on the AFLW because, as we said, kicks off tomorrow night, Collingwood v Carlton. For the first time ever, we have all 18 teams in the competition. It'll be 10 rounds, and then the finals will be played through November. What are you most looking forward to? Because for me, I'm looking forward to finally having all 18 teams. I think every supporter now can go along and support their team. A couple of games have already been moved venues. The Essendon Hawthorn game has been moved from Port Melbourne to Marvel Stadium because they're expecting a big crowd. Tomorrow night, Icon Park should be a full house as well. Daisy, what are you most looking forward to about the AFLW?
I'm just excited year on year how the game is evolving. So the skills of the players, the ball movement, and even just the game styles, you can actually comfortably tune in and go, right, if it's Collingwood, they're going to do this, this, and this, a bit like comparatively to the men's competition. And, you know, with the 18 teams, it's going to be fantastic to see. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, and then fast forwarding to a couple of years' time when there's all this young talent that's come through. You know, you can't be what you can't see. All the young girls that are coming through the pathway programs, just how good of an impact they're going to have instantly in the competition.
Yeah, I actually can't wait. I think it'll go like that. I think because of the short gap, wouldn't you have loved to have that shorter gap straight into another AFL season?
Yep.
I would have. Yep. Bugger pre-season, just come from one season into another season. So, no, I'm expecting a really good quality footy. Can't wait to watch it.
I'm just looking forward to the Erin Phillips storyline. She's already the greatest player we've had and probably will be arguably forever anyway. And now we've got her at this late stage of her career crossing teams to the emotional family.
And the captain.
One.
Yep.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see
And they could be the
does.
surprise packets of the competition.
Could they?
Port Adelaide.
Well, that's the great unknown.
They've recruited well in the Sandful Women's League, some players from Perth. They've got Gemma Houghton from Fremantle, who's a star, and of course Erin. They could be a smoky from the new franchises, but also just the arch rivalry. So Port Adelaide are going to have their own, you know, crosstown rivalry. Hawthorn, Essendon, as we mentioned. So now we're going to get the next layer of these sort of arch enemies playing against one another.
A little bit of a whisper. I've had my ear close to the ground. I've heard Sydney could be quite strong.
Really? We'll keep an eye on the Swans. All right. Hey, let's get into the elimination finals, Damo. Just an early look because we just want to get a couple of the talking points out of the big games. They're starting with Brisbane, Richmond, and the whole Dustin Martin situation for the Tigers.
Cue the Jaws music on this one, I reckon, Joey, with Dusty and Richmond coming up to the Gabba for this Thursday. He's going to be right to go, Duck, as by all reports. Now, he's certainly preparing as we speak to be ready. Tom Lynch hasn't got much of a problem at all with his groin. And you've then got that team that's got nothing to lose coming up against Brisbane, which is 1-5 in the 3 years of dominance of home and away. So it's intriguing on so many levels. That's the storyline for me.
What are you expecting from Dusty? Is it fair to say you're expecting a lot, or is it now the stage where we're like, you know what, if Dusty just contributes, bobs up with 1 or 2 and has 15 touches and helps, that's all? Or are we still going, no, Dusty's still got one finals campaign left in him?
The thing about Dusty and the way they use Dusty, they protect him. He gets to do whatever he wants. So he's unlike other players that come back in and have to do everything in regards to team. Dusty gets to come back in and Dimmer just says, Dusty, you just do Dusty. and we'll cover your weaknesses. We'll cover, you don't have to run defensively. You don't have to do that. You don't do that. You just give us what you can give us.
Yeah.
Not too many people get that license, and he'll get it. So that's why he could have an impact still.
Yeah, he'll have big moments, and I think in saying that, when you are slightly underdone and you're not rolling up the ground and you're sort of just staying one out in the goal square rather than following the field up, I think there'll be balls getting out the back to him on defence, and either that, he'll get a lot of one-on-one looks if teams choose to stay back with him, or they will just go whooshka and he will be all inside 50 all alone. I'm expecting big things and big moments.
And we know moments are crucial in finals. That's all it might be. Hey, Damo, Melbourne, Sydney, do you think the Demons are back from what we've seen in recent weeks, and are the Sydney Swans ready? Are they ready?
I'll answer the latter one first. Yes, and don't underestimate to the Dustin Martin conversation we just had, Buddy Franklin's role in what is to kick 50 goals again. Only done it 13 times in his life. It's extraordinary. In terms of Melbourne being back, Tom McDonald too will try and get through a VFL match. There's a new news line out of this game is that. And I think he's been a massive loss to a large part of why they had a bad 10 weeks there.
He's a link. He's a link player. I think he's massive. He can get a VFL game and get back into that team.
Does he come straight in for a first final?
If he gets through, he gets through the VFL, he's in. That's my take on it. Yeah, that's obviously for the selectors.
But he's a very fit guy. He's running ability. That's why he's an integral part to this team.
It changes their structure because they've now gone with the Melksham-Fritsch combination in the forward line with just the two talls, Ben Brown and one of the resting ruckmen.
Melksham needs to be given some serious credit for the turnaround in the past 2 weeks. The Carlton game, what was that, a fortnight ago? He was the one who came out of the goal square when they were screaming at someone to come at the kicker all year. He was the one, shoulders out at the kicker, 15, 20 metres. He had 7 shots on goal in that night. You fast forward a week against Brisbane, the whole forward line's cotton on to, hang on a minute, if we pump up at the kicker and we get a good look at it, then all the smalls had an impact. So I don't think you should be changing it too much. Nice option to have there, but Ben Brown's in form. That's where I'd be going like for like. I wouldn't be kicking Jake the Snake out for that.
No. I wouldn't be dropping Melksham for the sake of it.
Well, there you go. Plenty to play out there. What about Geelong Collingwood, Damo, the first qualifying final?
Yeah, the Koning storyline to me, I've just loved all year. Had only one game to his name before this year, and in my eyes, is going to be unlucky not to be the rising star of the year. And the Jamie Elliott story, he is a hero, isn't he? What he did in that game against Essendon after the siren, and then the mark in the last quarter of the most recent game, and then the match-winning goal. I mean, without those moments for him, they're not finishing top 4.
Folklore forever, isn't it?
Folklore forever. And you just know he's a big-time player.
Paddy Dangerfield, it's Paddy Dangerfield month. Is this it? This is his legacy, Duck? Do you think that's fair?
It's not his legacy because there's been some absolute guns. You've got a couple of teammates as well that have missed out on premierships. But is it the cherry on top for him? Yes, a big final series and a premiership certainly will do that.
I think it elevates him a couple of steps if he is able to carry them and go in and have an unbelievable final series and then get the victory. I think, we talk about him as a champion, but that really cements him up the top.
And then the last elimination final, Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs. Do you believe in once finals start that you can just flick a switch, or is there the old, Western Bulldogs haven't been good enough all year, they've been inconsistent, they're not going to do any damage, or do you still think there is an element of flicking a switch in finals?
I think really good teams can flick a switch come finals if they've had a bit of bad luck leading up, for instance, injuries, suspensions or whatever, and then they get all them back and they can flick a switch. The way the Bulldogs have been playing, not so sure. No.
I'm not concerned, but intrigued as to the Bulldogs' mindset. Obviously, they were watching that game, Collingwood-Carlton, and for the best part of 3 quarters there, they would have been almost about to rip into the Eskies. There was nearly season done, and then all of a sudden, in the blink of 15 minutes, hang on a minute, we're alive, we're a chance. So that mindset of, geez, we thought we were done, but we get another opportunity. I think that's pretty dangerous.
Well, happened the week before too. They needed the same result to go their way with a Collingwood game the week before, and they got it. To answer that question, Joey, you're talking about the Bulldogs. They've done it before in 16 and 21, where they've gone through a final series coming from outside the top 4. So yes,
do we give Freo any hope to make any sort of damage or do any damage going in? Is their back end form good enough?
Yeah, I think they can. I think they should beat the Western Bulldogs, and then if Collingwood get beaten by Geelong, they play Collingwood at the MCG, which is going to be a tough ask. But I think for Paddy Dangerfield, I think this is Nat Fyfe's moment too. He's had the one game, he gets the opportunity to, his body's being banged up, but he comes in and potentially can have it be the real X factor for this whole final series, maybe even a Gary Ayres medal or something.
Without
like that.
Notice, the player who is going to win that Gary Ayres medal for mine of those teams. Anyone suggestions, picks?
Tom de Koning.
Tom de Koning.
Sorry, maybe Sam. Sam de Koning. Tom
this
can't win
is
it.
for the whole
thing. Who's going to have the best final series?
Oh, No, haven't even given it any thought.
No
you, Dose?
notice. I'm going to go with Lockie Neal. I think if he can find a way to get Brisbane through to a prelim or obviously a grand final helps, they're going to do it on the back of him and his brilliance.
You know what? Don't overthink it. Let's go to the obvious. Christian Petrarca's the new Dusty Martin. So I think Petrarca can win at the Gary Ayres medal. 2 or 3 BOGs in his 3 games.
I'll say Jeremy Cameron.
Very good. Hey, like it. Hey, another great show. Thanks for listening to this week's edition of Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Of course, it's also exclusive on the Listener app. We'll be back again to do it all next Wednesday, where we will deep dive into the first week of finals. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.